It's Tuesday, so you know what that means. No, it's not Dana White's matchmaking meetings. The real matchmaking meetings happen on Monday for Sandbox MMA. And if you saw it, haven't seen it yet, go check out the video I posted yesterday. Got some awesome matchups, realistic ones based off what I think the UFC is going to do or what they've already promised. But today is about the rankings, the real rankings. And I'm going to let you know where they all stand. A lot of ranked fighters were on the card this week. There's been a lot of movement, including pound for pound, so stay tuned for that. As you know, I don't like to drag this video on too long. These are pretty basic updates. I'm going to give you a little bit of an explanation to a lot of them, but yeah, a lot of them are going to be self-explanatory. A lot of them, you're going to want to hear a little bit more explanation, but these are the real rankings updates because Dana White has talked about how he's going to get control of the ranking system, and he just fucking hasn't. The one good thing we've seen is like Max Holloway go up a little bit, but Moicano got disrespected in the same spot. And mind you, this rankings takes place on a week-to-week basis. I don't look at the UFC rankings, then update from what the UFC rankings were. I update from what my rankings were the week before. So you're going to see people that you're going to go, wait, Renato Moicano isn't 7 in the UFC rankings. What are you talking about? No, after the Paris card, I ranked him 7 on my rankings. So we are getting into the Sandbox MMA rankings. What a start for me telling you I'm not going to dick around for the whole time because I just spent a minute and a half rambling about nothing. So here we go. We're going to start with the welterweight division. Now, there were a couple fights on this card, and I'm going to be looking down at my phone to make sure I got this all right. Renat Fakhretdinov happened earlier, doesn't deserve a rank spot because he got a robbery win. Ismail Nordiev, not close to the rankings. Farid Basharat's getting close, but he's not ready to jump a Montel Jackson or really any of these other guys that are in the rankings. A Dominic Cruz, a Mario Batista, even though I'd actually let him jump Mario Batista. That's totally fine to me. Fucking coward. But he's not ready to jump any of these guys yet. He needs another win or two. He needs 2 wins. He needs a win against a big name and then a rankings fight to get in. So we're also obviously in Zechniku's not making it. Abus is close. I would put Abus as a top 20 guy, maybe a top 18 guy, but he doesn't deserve to make it yet. Mateusz Rombeski, same thing, dude. I think he's a top 18 guy, but you're going to see a lightweight movement because of this fight that just happened. RDA is going to be moved out of the lightweight rankings. I'll let you know that in a moment. But we're going to get to that RDA and Jeff Neal fight right now. So the first thing I want to talk about, because lightweight's something I'm going to talk about later on the card, and we get to Max Blessed Holloway. That's damn right. But welterweight, here we are, man. Jeff Neal's going to stay put where he is. Now, RDA is not in these rankings. I took him out a bit ago because he hasn't had a win at welterweight in quite some time. Neil Magny's here at 15, and the reason he's at 15 is because the UFC put him there, and I'm actually going to oblige that because he's got a fight with Carlos Pratas coming up, and a win for Carlos Pratas over Neil Magny, ranked number 15, is going to put Carlos Pratas in the rankings, which I think he should deserve at that point. So I like the way the UFC did things there. Jeff Neal, there's an argument for him to go up above Wonderboy and Covington and Burns because they're all coming off losses, but Jeff Neal knocked out Rafael Dos Anjos. Nothing shocking. A guy that's not in the rankings or shouldn't be in the rankings. And Wonderboy Thompson, when they fought, Wonderboy beat him. Colby Covington, I actually think Jeff Neal would spark Colby Covington. I don't think Colby's actually able to get him to the ground. He would have to make Jeff Neal wilt, I think, with the striking volume. And I think Jeff Neal's just too crispy and way too good against southpaws. So I think he would actually beat Colby Covington, if I'm being honest. And the Gilbert Burn fights, I think it's a close one. Gilbert's very, very tough. He's going to be a hard guy to knock out cold with your hands, even though Usman did it. Jeff Neal's a tough guy too. I don't know. We'll see how that one ends up turning out because this win or this close fight that Burns had over Chimaev has only aged better and better with time. But I'm not going to move Jeff Neal up, even though you can argue that. I still think this is a great spot for him, and to match him up with a guy like Michael Morales or MVP, it's going to make a lot of sense in the rankings. We're going to move on. Ibo Aslan, another fight after that he's not ready for the rankings yet. He beat a guy that's never fought in the UFC, but he's a dude that can work his way up with 2 more fights, can get in, because light heavyweight is fucking thin in the UFC. Just saying that. Sharon Magomedov, Armen Petrosyan. We'll get to middleweight in a second. I don't want to reveal what I've done here, but Shara Magomedov is ranked on the UFC rankings number 14. I'm a fan of Shara. Love his fight style. Love the finishes he's gotten. But this guy has wins over Michal Oleńczyk, who hasn't sniffed the rankings. Armen Petrosyan, who hasn't sniffed the rankings. Antonio Tricoli, who doesn't have a win in the UFC, I don't believe. And then some other tomato can, I'm pretty sure he has a win. Oh, no, it was Bruno Silva, who hasn't won a fight since 2022. So I'm looking at Shara Magomedov and saying, yes, while I would love to put him in the rankings, I don't think it makes sense. The UFC just did it because he's sellable. It's good to have a number next to his name so you can really give him some big fights, but I think he needs to fight his way into the rankings against a guy like Michel Pereira, which, listen, I'm spoiling everything that I said yesterday, but like, I think a Michel Pereira versus Shara Magomedov fight goes really hard, and I think it's winnable for Shara, it's winnable for Michel, but that's how you get him in the rankings to end up being ranked 14. Instead, he just gets gifted 14. Michel Pereira moved 1, and Chris Curtis got booted out. So I just don't agree with that. But we're going to get to middleweight, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a second. We're going to go and skip to featherweight right here. Lerone Murphy, Dan Ige. I think Dan Ige at 14 stays in the same spot. I think it works good. When I look here at the UFC website, Dan Ige was ranked 14. He stays in the same spot. I agree with it. The UFC only moved Lerone Murphy up 1 spot over Giga Chikadze to 11. I'm moving him up 2. I'm going to put him over Kattar. And listen, I'm a Boston guy. I'm from Boston. Love Calvin Kattar. But we're looking at a dude that's coming off a couple losses in a row now. And yes, he was robbed by Josh Emmett. It is what it is. Like, that was back in 22. Then he takes time off to an injury, hasn't fought in a long, long time, gets his knee blown out by Arnold Allen, and then he ends up fighting Aljo on UFC 300 and just gets smothered and dominated the whole time. Not in fun fashion, but he was dominated the whole time. So I'm going to have to move him below Lerone Murphy. Lerone Murphy's coming off 2 really impressive wins back-to-back. Unanimous decision over Edson Barbosa, where he went to like the 4th in significant strike history record. I think he's behind like 3 Max Holloway performances. And then he gets a decision over Dan Ige, who took Diego Lopez to a competitive decision, even though I know there are circumstances behind those weight cuts and everything. But I'm moving Lerone Murphy up to the top 10. I think it's time. And listen, he called out Josh Emmett 9 and 10 in the rankings. That makes sense to me. You beat Josh Emmett, then you get your shot at the top in the Mozart Evloyevs, the Diego Lopez's, the Arnold Allens, the Aljos, whoever wins that fight, really. And I'm keeping Max up here until I know for sure he's moving up to 155, but I believe he does. And once he does, I'm going to pull him out of featherweight. Promise you that. But Max Holloway, man, I just can't pull him out of featherweight until I have confirmation. And it's pretty much guaranteed. He's talked about it. The UFC is going to want him to defend the BMF belt at 155 against one of those guys like Hooker, Oliveira, Poirier. But I'm going to keep him at 2 for now, because I do think he's better than everyone in the division, not named Alexander Volkanovski and Ilia Topuria. But Max will probably come out soon. I'm just giving you guys a heads up. And it's not because he's not one of the best featherweights. I just don't know that he'll fight at featherweight. And we'll do pound for pound at the end of this video as well. But we're going to move on to light heavyweight. Nothing too crazy here. Alexander Rakic stays in the same spot, fights to a decision, and took a round off of Magomed Ankalaev, so I think that keeps him at the 5 spot, because I do think he's better than most of the other guys here until they prove otherwise to me. Like a win for Carlos Oberg could jump him up to the 5 and Rakic to the 6. We'll see when it gets there. But I'm switching Magomed Ankalaev and Yuri Prochazka. Magomed Ankalaev is going to be the guy that fights Alex Pereira next. He's got wins over good names in the division now. Like, he beat Anthony Smith, easy. He drew Jan Blachowicz. He beat Alexander Rakic. So, like, now that Rakic name really does a lot for his resume, and he knocked out Johnny Walker. So, it's enough for me that he's going to go up to the number 1 contender spot. Don't think there's going to be too much pushback there. Here he's lost to Alex Pereira most recently, and he was getting battered by Rakic and ended up just being, like, just too tough, and he's just too tough to go away. And I reckon we're going to get a Yuri Jamal Hill fight soon, which would be a fucking banger. But we're going to move to middleweight, which is a lot of what you guys want to see. Yes, Khamzat Chimaev jumped 10 spots. Yes, he did. I don't think anyone disagrees, man. I think he deserves it. Listen, he beat Robert Whittaker. I don't know why on the UFC rankings they have Israel Adesanya above him. Can you explain that to me, please? Why is Israel Adesanya ranked 2 and Khamzat ranked 3? Khamzat Chimaev is the number 2 guy. Is going to be the number 1 contender once Dricus beats Strickland, I'm telling you. So I'm putting Khamzat at the 2. That's the right way to do it. And then everyone moves down 1 spot. Israel Adesanya moves down. Robert Whittaker, Nasruddin Imavov, Caio Borralho, Jared Cannonier, Marvin Vettori, Brendan Allen, Roman Dolidze, Paulo Costa, Jack Hermanson. That all makes really good sense to me. Anthony Hernandez is a guy that I'm going to expect to jump up with a couple more losses from guys around here or one more win from him. I moved Chris Curtis above Michel Pereira last week because of how bad Michel Pereira's performance was. But what the UFC did was instead of moving Chris Curtis up and Michel Pereira down, they moved Michel Pereira down, but they just skipped Shara up there. I can't put Shara up there yet, guys. Even though I do think he's a really difficult matchup for Chris Curtis, I'm not putting him up there yet until he beats a guy that deserves him in the rankings. I like Shara a lot. I think he's very entertaining. I think he's great for the sport. And I think he's an incredibly good striker. I do think there are holes in the grappling. And I do think a power puncher that puts a lot of pressure on him can get to him. So he's not going to be ranked 15 yet or in the top 15. He just doesn't have the wins that tell me, yeah, this is a top guy. Sorry. I'm just going to say it how it is. But yeah, Hamzat goes up 10 spots. Completely deserved. Let's now go to, we did featherweight. We're going to go to lightweight. A lot of things change here, guys. 15 ranked was RDA. RDA's out. He's out of lightweight, man. I think he's going to be out for a while, and this is another guy that his last win at lightweight was over Renato Moicano when Moicano took it on 4 days' notice, and again, that was back in 2022. So, not putting a lot of stake in that. Since then, he's lost to Luque, he's lost to Jeff Neal, he's hurt, he's going to be out for a while. It's time to pull him out. I wanted to put Rebecca in here based off his recent performance. You can look at a Joel Alvarez, another guy that could be in here as well. Don't know that Ferez Yam's going to get it with beating Matt Frivola. So I'm going to put Carlos Diego Ferreira in here. Mateusz Rambetsky beat Maidelbeck Oralby, and then he was beating up on Carlos Diego Ferreira, but Carlos Diego Ferreira survived that onslaught and ended up winning the fight by submission. Oh no, it was late TKO with 9 seconds left. So he's going to get that 15 ranked spot to me, guys. I don't think there's anyone else that really deserves it. He's definitely just more deserving than RDA to me. So I'm putting Carlos Diego Ferreira here. And pulling RDA out, that means that, and RDA was actually 13. I know I said 15. I was wrong. Carlos Diego Ferreira goes in at 15. And then Pimblett and Jalen Turner move up 1 spot each. I think that makes all the sense in the world. I really do. And it also just... Listen, the UFC is going to want to push Paddy. I'd like to push Paddy a little bit. I'd like to see him fight in a 14 ranked versus a 9 ranked. Makes a lot of sense at this point to me. Let's do that. And then Max Holloway was ranked 7 on my list. He's going to go up to 3 because now I do believe he's going to be solidified in the lightweight division. And he knocked out Gaethje. He had a very competitive. Poirier beat him, but he had a good fight with Poirier a couple of years ago back in 2019. And he went up on short notice and just looked flabby and not at his best, and he still took Poirier to a hell of a fight. And that's just going to move everyone down 1. It's no disrespect to these dudes over here, but Max Holloway, knocked out Gaethje. He should be up higher on this list. And this sets up a great Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway fight, which I would love to see. Now, Holloway's moving up. Each of those guys, Gaethje, Poirier, Dan Hooker, Moicano, moving down 1 spot. With 1 win, they're going to move back up again. But we're going to go to pound for pound. This is what I'm doing for Max Holloway, guys. I think he deserves it. I really do. He knocked out Gaethje. That should be enough said. He should have been up there before, but he was going to go back down to featherweight, so that's why they gave him a more reasonable ranking. Now he's going to come back up. I'm telling you guys, he's going to come back up to lightweight, so he will be out of the featherweight rankings. I'm just not taking him out of there right now because it's going to look way too weird not having Max Holloway in there. We're going to move him up to the lightweight rankings. He's going to be here at 3. And now we're going to go to pound for pound, guys. I'm going to tell you what the UFC's is and while you look at mine. So the UFC's pound for pound rankings is Islam, Alex Pereira, John Jones, Ilia Topuria, Bilal Muhammad at 5, Dricus 6, Merab 7, Aspinall 8, Leon 9, Volk 10, Pantoja 11, Holloway 12, O'Malley 13, Strickland 14, Izzy 15. That is getting changed right now. Islam at 1 stays there. Nothing's going to really happen to change him except... I was really debating just throwing Ilia at 1 because I do think he's better than everyone in the sport right now, and I think he gives Islam Makhachev one hell of a problem. One that Volk didn't give, which was a lot of power. Alex Pereira at 2, that's going to stay put. I mean, this guy is just murdering people left and right. I moved Ilia to 3 because he should be high. He should be in the top 3. You can argue him for 1 and 2, but I'm going to put him below Islam and Alex Pereira. It's just they're the spots that these guys deserve. And Ilia really could be at number 1, guys. We'll see how Islam's fight with Arman Tsarukyan is because Islam's had a lot of really fucking competitive fights that make me almost not want to keep him at number 1 pound for pound. but he deserves it, so he's going to stay there. Alex Pereira is going to stay at 2. Ilia's at 3, and one more. Like a win over Volk and Diego Lopez gets him to 1 easily. A win over just Diego Lopez might get him up there too, so we'll see how impressively he does it. Dricus du Plessis at 4. This guy beat Strickland and Adesanya and Robert Whittaker. He's going up to 4. He's the champ, and he's retained. Aspinall's going to 5 because I think he beats anyone in the UFC, period. There isn't a guy that can take this guy in the octagon, except for like Ilia. I'm just kidding, guys. Now the glaze is getting crazy. Now the glaze is getting crazy. I'll calm down. But Aspinall's going to go here at 5. I think he's the baddest dude on the planet. He just has not had the opportunity to show it as much as we'd like to because the UFC is protecting Jon Jones. 6, I'm going Bilal Muhammad. He hasn't retained his title yet, so that's why he's not going to go above some of these other guys who do have defenses. Jon Jones at 7. Listen, he beat Cyril Gane and has done nothing since, and even before that, he got his ass beat by Dominic Reyes, so he's going to go to 7. Merab at 8. Fuck Merab and his boring-ass style. He's going to 8. I don't think he does anything super impressively other than a cardio base and the ability to like take people down with relentless cardio. It's not like his wrestling skill is crazy, and the way he dances around the octagon, looks like he's in a mariachi band. But we're gonna go Pantoja at 9 because he's a champion, man. He deserves to be above the non-champions. Then we get to the non-champs. Volk at 10, Holloway at 11. This is interchangeable, but Volk has 3 wins over him, so I'm gonna put him there. Leon at 12 because he did take out Usman when Usman was pound for pound number 1, and he beat him twice in a very close second fight, and he was losing the first one until the knockout, but he's staying in here at 12. Hamzat at 13. I think Hamzat's probably beaten most people on this list, but he's the only guy, he's beaten 2 guys that are impressive. Usman and Whittaker. The Whittaker win was fucking very impressive. The Usman win was dicey, but you know what? Usman is that fucking good, and that just makes what Leon did to him even more impressive. Chimaev, debatably drew Usman, man. 10-8 in the first round, which was a little bit of a soft 10-8, but it's 10-8 in the first round, and then I think he lost the next 2, but it is what it is. Chimaev's going to be here at 13, and he absolutely deserves a pound-for-pound spot. He goes up and he beats people at light heavyweight right now, and I'm very confident of that. He's ragdolling Anthony Smith. There's no wrist control. There's no, outside foot battle that's going to be done that's going to stop Khamzat Chimaev from beating the fucking piss out of Anthony Smith. Then we're going to go Strickland at 14. Has a win over Izzy. Very competitive fight with DDP. I'm going to put him in there. He was a champion and lost by split decision. And then Arman Tsarukyan. I think he's just one of the most well-rounded fighters in the sport right now. The best fighter at lightweight, not named Islam Makhachev. And I think he deserves a pound-for-pound spot. It might be a crazy take, but I'm going to put him there. These are my rankings, the correct UFC rankings. Hope you enjoyed the video. We kept it under 20 minutes for you. If you got any other suggestions, please let me know. I'm always ears, want to listen to you, and love responding to the comments. So if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and tell me who you think deserves to be pound-for-pound number 1. Is it Ilia already? I can be convinced, so let me know. Thanks for watching again.